Raghunath, are you ready for this?
What?
The Wisdom of the Sages trainings that are going on.
Where?
At the Eco Village, the Govardhan Eco Village in India.
Why?
To totally transform your life spiritually.
Who?
You, me, Radha Swami's going to be there. Other great teachers are going to be there. Lots of cool people.
How?
You go to wisdomofthesages.com/events. You find all the information there.
Haribo.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center, New York, Kaustuba Das. Welcome to the show, everybody. It's a beautiful day here for a beautiful day, and it is Tuesday.
Well
it's a
done.
magical day.
You got
It's
it
a magical day, Kaustuba. You know why?
Why?
Because after we pack up these kids their breakfast and after we get them off to school, then I'm driving to Mara's house. We're going to jump in her electric Kia and drive to New York City to have lunch with you and Radhanath Swami. Woo!
That's right.
Looking forward to it.
Looking forward to serving you, Raghunath and Mara. I want to serve you both today.
Oh, good, because I've got a list of how you can.
No, I got my idea of how I'm going to do it.
People say I want to serve you.
I
I was
really
like,
do
all right,
anything
well,
here.
start serving. I got a lot of desires. This might take you a while.
No, I want to serve you
Just
homemade pizza.
Don't just throw that word around cheaply, Mr. Pizza Man.
All right.
You know what I did last night over dinner?
Tell
Me and Moses and me and this one person who's friends with me and Mallory. And Mallory.
What was that?
And the kids.
Yeah. What
we
did you
tuned in to the wonderful Divya and her Q&A she did on Patreon. If you don't listen to that, Patreon members, zoom in. It was really good.
It's recorded, so you can go back and listen to it now, right?
Yeah.
I heard she did a wonderful job. I heard she's super knowledgeable, but also for the questions that held an emotional element, she was like very like sensitive and compassionate, and she just really knows her stuff.
She knows her stuff. She's great. I love her. That was great. I felt like very close to her.
Give me
after
one
that.
thing that you learned, one takeaway.
Well, my question yesterday, how do you prepare a meal for all these different types of constitutions? He goes, you'd have different like sauces and what was it, Mary?
Yeah.
Sauces and condiments.
What did I learn that I forgot?
So you can like make something a little bit more pitta if this condiment has a little.
Yeah, you do like a
cool
little chili
something
paste
down.
on the side for the pitta person in your family.
Yeah.
And then the
Did you enjoy it, Mara?
chutney. Yeah, it was great.
Get some takeaways you can sneak into your cooking.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great.
Stealing from Divya.
Everyone was very upset when she was talking about how you can't eat leftover khichdi. It's like terrible for your digestion. Leftover khichdi, leftover
Everybody's
dal,
like,
leftover
no!
rice. Everyone's like,
But
oh no.
I make it once a week and I eat it all week.
I eat it for the whole month.
I
just keep it hot
and
now.
I feel so sluggish, But
Kills the prana.
Sort of Swedish on the message board says, is there a replay? And the answer is there's always a replay in our Patreon party archives. Their treasure trove is there for you. Patreon members, there is a treasure house of valuable information in our Patreon archives.
Is
So
it
that's what you
posted
gotta
there
do.
already?
no, not yet. But the
Oh, it's
link will
not?
be up later today.
Okay, it's going to come up. So if you're not a Patreon member, that's how, if you like this show, people buy a hot soy latte, or no one drinks soy anymore. Soy is so
Oat.
2008.
Oat
Milk.
Drink oat
Yeah.
lattes. Oat lattes. For the cost of an oat latte, you can throw some support our way. For the cost of 5 oat latte. I mean, are we worth a latte?
That's really up to the public, Raghunath.
You're
We
right.
don't
So
say.
whatever you think we're worth, then you give that. Whatever you can give us. But that's a community supported podcast. And we have a whole treasure trove, and you can go back and look at yoga classes and workshops, etc. Patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
Nice. And consider taking Divya's master class, master cooking
Oh
class.
yeah, let's say the info for the master class.
The links can be found
In the show notes.
in the show notes, as well as on our link tree, which you can find in our Patreon, not Patreon, in our Instagram bio. The
And we're
link for
getting
that.
what do you call it? We're getting 40% off for all Patreon members.
Yeah, and you also get like 3 extra classes too.
I think it's a
Bonus classes.
substantial gift for the holidays because, like, I'm gonna get it and I'm gonna do it with my kids, and it's gonna it's something you do with your kids. Where, how many dumb things have I done with my kids? Even like nice dumb things, like let's play Clue, let's play Monopoly, and see how we can capitalize on each other. How about just let's learn about herbs and cumin and coriander and how they blend together and how not to stay cold in winter and how to combine herbs to make masalas, and let's learn something substantial as a family. Isn't that a nice idea?
It's beautiful, and it's an ancient gift, right? It's a timeless science, of cooking and health.
Yeah. But I'm thinking my point, Makustu, is not just like it's good like that. It's like it brings the family
That's
together.
That's what you're all about. You bring people together.
I do that. That's my job. I'm a bridge.
Okay.
I'm the connector.
All right. All right. Speaking of connecting, why don't we connect to whatever other announcements we had today?
I want to put it.
Oh, you're breaking the connection. What are you doing? I thought you're the connector.
I connect with everybody.
Go ahead.
Oh, you do the connecting around here, right?
I just want to give a shout out to the BRG is doing a Swiss retreat. BhaktiRecoveryGroup.com. Check it out. 12-step recovery. You don't have to be a substance abuser to get a lot out of these retreats. It's a lot of introspection, a lot of journaling, a lot of I really feel like people walked away with the one at the Super Soul Farm. Like, this really deepens my understanding in Bhakti. And Jiva G is an incredible leader, and she's going to do it at this beautiful retreat center in Davos, Davos, in Switzerland. So if you're European or just want to go into the Swiss Alps, this is your chance. I think Bobby Marchand is going.
Yeah, I think she's cooking for them.
She's cooking for it and teaching some yoga.
Yeah.
So that's November 24th, 27th. Go check out BhaktiRecovery.com.
BhaktiRecoveryGroup.com.
Thank you.
Yeah. We also have Bhakti Recovery Group meetings today. The men meet at 1:00. The women meet at 2:00. And then we have an asana class with Josh Kane at 5 p.m. for our Patreon members.
He's good.
Yeah. And you know what else we have for our Patreon members that I sent out on the post yesterday is Nityananda Chandra set up a calendar in Gmail so that you can see all of the events and offerings we have.
That's right.
And the Patreon members can subscribe to it. And it's also great because they see it in their local time zone.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it's kind of neat.
This is valuable, man.
Absolutely.
All right.
This is good service.
Now, you know what time it is now, Roganath?
It's time to get ill.
No. It's time to die. It's death.
I'm listening to that Rick Rubin interview on Joe Rogan.
Uh-huh.
Did you know Rick Rubin?
I met him once walking down the street with John Joseph. It's like, this is the guy that's going to make the Chromax famous. I was like, all right.
What do you call it? I saw his band back in the old days. He was in a band called Hose. Ever see Hose?
The name I remember. I probably did. For all I know.
One of those Lower East Side things.
Hose. Okay.
Rubin.
But we're not talking about hose today. We're not talking about stockings. Just keep it moving here, okay?
Anti-hose. Oh my God. I almost died yesterday. I almost died. When they say die laughing, it's like real.
It could happen.
You could die. I felt like my heart might stop. My brain blacks out.
Well, death is the theme.
I don't even know what we were laughing about. It's just like
death is the theme. And so now we're moving on to today's.
Oh yeah, we got a death
nugget.
It's Death Week here at
because in our Bhagavad with Tom story, we're hearing about we've been hearing about the life of King Puranjan, who represents the soul within the body, and now we're hearing about the death.
Death nugget. Here we go.
Yes. Who's it from?
This is from
You see that?
You did that.
Yeah, see
Elisabeth
that?
Kubler-Ross. That's the person
yesterday.
I quoted yesterday.
Yeah. You wrote a song based on her book?
I wrote a song based on, I stole the title of her book and wrote a song about it.
But it was inspired by the book?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
Well, it
in
was
the book
inspired by my
called?
life experience, but I did, yes.
But you
All
were,
right, here
but
it
the
is.
book helped you
Process.
process that life experience, right?
I mean, the Bhagavad Gita helped me process that life experience.
Okay, the book meant nothing to you. Okay, no.
The book had a cool title, and I stole it. I used it for a song.
All
I
right.
owe you nothing, Elisabeth Kubler-Ross. I'm just kidding. It was a great book.
All right.
It's not the end of the physical body that should worry us.
Mhm.
Rather, our concern must be to live while we're alive, to
Okay.
release our inner selves from the spiritual death that comes with living behind a facade designed to conform to external definitions of who we are and what we are. I'm going to read that again.
Yeah, okay.
Ingest this, Mara. It's important. It is not the end of the physical body that should worry us. Rather, our concern must be to live while we're alive, to release our inner selves from the spiritual death that comes.
I think you
with
can emphasize that to release our inner selves from the spiritual death.
From the spiritual death that comes with living a facade designed to conform to external definitions of who we are and what we are. What is your external definition of yourself, Kostuba?
Well, you see, so many external definitions are provided to us, right? Like I was thinking,
Sure.
it's even like we think we're accepting it voluntarily, right? Like we think it's our decision. And that kind of came up in the last chapter too. It's like kind of like you're really bound when you think that you're free, but you're just pursuing what's been laid out for you as if, you've been given the idea of what success is in life, right? And you
Their
pursue
idea of
that.
success is all I detest. I say forget it. Shelter, circa 1992.
Thank you. So we're fed, through the people that we know and what our parents may teach us and what we're picking up through various forms of media. What is it that makes my life successful, right? And it's not difficult to be tricked, to be fooled, to buy into the idea that it's success is found through sense pleasure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Finding comforts, finding pleasures. If you manage to do that, what to speak of, do it better than the next person, well, then you're successful. But is that life, or is that a spiritual death, right? Is that we're actually missing the entire point? So I like how she says that, living behind a facade. It's a facade of pleasure and success that always will, every time, if we're observant, right, we're going to see that. And here's, Chandavega, the force of time attacking the city, right, attacking the body. We see time will always tear down that facade, right? And behind it, we'll find that there's suffering. Behind it, we'll find that there's you can say suffering or pain, or you could say like the failure in a sense. If success means I'm finding material enjoyment, well, then my success is tied to that. And once my body starts to fall apart, then apparently I'm a failure, right?
Good morning, everybody.
Well,
Happy Tuesday.
Well, share your thoughts on it. My point is, so once you know that, then you're ready to move forward. Then you're ready to do what she's saying, to really live,
Yes. No, it's our death becomes the spiritualist meditation, because there's no more wasted time when you understand there is a goal. Life does have a goal. There is a purpose why we're here. We just get popped out of this world and we're like, well, what is purpose? I don't know. My purpose is to collect this or create this, or there is a purpose why we're here. It's self-realization, and ready, go, because there's an ending point to this.
Right.
And God knows what you're going to be in your next life, or if you're going to be focused around good, inspirational people. But there's a reason why we're here. Don't waste time. And spiritual life doesn't mean do nothing either. Sometimes people think, well, I've been so busy. Now I'm just going to give up life and just, I'm going to retire to a beach. That's not spiritual life either. That's just sort of like running away from thinking of life's purpose.
Comforts.
Life's right.
Pleasures. Yeah.
Right. And that's why there's these, what is that place in Italy with all the skulls dressed up as a monk?
Catacombs.
The catacombs of Italy. and they're all these thousands of skulls, and they make them into skeletons, and they dress them up as monks. It's really eerie,
It's a
but
nice
it's sort of
Halloween
cool.
thing.
It's a great for Halloween. And look at Mara. She's making a pie for Radhanath Swami. Isn't that sweet? That's why she's walking around with her camera.
And it says, as you are, we once were.
As you
we
are,
you
yes,
soon will be.
as you are, once we were, and as you are soon, and as we are, soon you will be. Because we don't like to think of ourselves as a skull. We think of ourselves as a vibrant, living person with hopes and dreams and desires and passions and fashion. Who cares about your fashion? You're about to be a skeleton. Stop investing in all these external things. It's okay to have them. Go inside. There's some bigger ROI, return on investment, with your spiritual life.
What we got? Charles Schwab over here? Where'd you pick that one up? What was that? ROI, return on investment. I'll remember that one. Come back, Raghunath. Come back.
Oh, it's Charles Schwab. Like, out of all people, you pick him.
I don't even know who
I've
Charles
been
Schwab
compared
is.
to a lot
but
of people, but never Charles Schwab.
do you know who he is? I mean, I thought that was just like an investment.
He's like,
in,
who's Charles Schwab? He's something like, it's Charles Schwab. He's like, isn't Charles Schwab like
there's some investment
like
firm
Vanguard
named after him. So I assume he was a
Yes.
banker of some sort.
He's a famous banker.
Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu. Oh,
All right. You ready, Raghunath?
yes.
Hit it.
The Vanderbilts. He's a financial advisor firm. Thank you. That's what I meant to say, AJ Sullivan.
Yeah.
Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesva badresu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki.
by regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee. All that is troubles from the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Gyana Timarandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksur Unmilatam Nena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My teachers are opening my eyes. With the torchlight of knowledge, I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Ooh.
All right. Mirror.
Reading from Canto 4, Chapter 28, Text 14.
Text 14. So what's going on here, Raghunath?
I don't know. I'm reading the message board and trying to catch up with those guys.
Okay. Let's set that aside for now.
Tell me.
So our story is now it's getting to this crazy place where the king, who represents the soul within the city, which represents the body, is being attacked, right? The body's being attacked. The senses, all the gates of the city, the senses are just like not what they used to be, right? They're all being broken into and broken down. They're invaded. His discernment is running away. His patience is running away. All his good qualities, in the pressure of that attack, fear is coming along with it, and so he's suffering right now, in intense fear as his body's falling apart, as his city's falling apart. He's going to have to escape. He's going to have to leave the body. Right? So that's all setting in right now. It was inevitable. He wasn't thinking about it before, but it was coming all along. Here comes the attack. Death. All right.
Whew. Alrighty. What verse are we on there, Mayor?
14.
14. As a serpent living within the cavity of a tree wishes to leave when there is a forest fire, so the city's police superintendent, the snake, wished to leave the city due to the fire's severe heat. So this is the the prana is now leaving the body. They say when the body dies, it creates a heat in the body, and then the prana leaves.
And that prana will accompany you to the next body.
Does it? The prana follows.
Yeah, because kind of
I know the subtle body follows the soul, but I've never heard the prana follows the soul.
I'm telling you, Raghunath. You heard
Yeah?
it now. You heard it now.
You schooling me. Thank you. Thank you, master. The
You
superintendent.
teach me on. I'll advise you on death. You advise me on finances.
I'll invite you on investments. Sometimes I look at my life and think, how am I still alive? Like I've made so many poor choices in my life. I'm so materially inept. I'm just like, I should be living like just sleeping in the grass somewhere. You know,
it's almost amazing that any of us are still alive. It's like there's so many things that can kill you.
So many things that can kill you. So many things can go wrong in this world.
It's like, how many times have I been just nearly hit by a car? Because, you know, like you're on a sidewalk, the cars are just zipping right by you, you know? It's
like, that's true too. That's chance. And you and I grew up in that crazy neighborhood, just hanging out with all those crazies. We're lucky we're not dead from that.
Yeah, so many things could be.
Okay.
There's danger at every step. I think you have Lord Shiva protecting you, Raghunath. I think that's
I do.
Thing.
All right. What text?
15.
The limbs of the serpent's body were slackened by the Gandharvas and Yavana soldiers,
days and nights,
who had thoroughly defeated his bodily strength. When he attempted to leave the body, he was checked by his enemies. Being thus baffled in his attempt, he began to cry loudly.
Yeah.
Oh.
You know, think about it. And again, it may sound like you kind of were indicating earlier today, Rogan. It may sound pessimistic, but it's actually, it's just waking you up to not to invest in what surely is going to go bankrupt, right? Don't invest in a company that's like on the way down, right? And that's the body, right? Don't invest. I'm not saying don't care for it, don't take care of it, but in other words, don't think that it's the source of happiness. It's not. And so here it's saying that his bodily strength, it was being attacked by the steady, attack of the Gandharvas and the Yavana soldiers, which represent the days and nights. Every time we see a sunrise, every time we see a sunset, in a sense, it's telling us that's one more, attacker moving in.
Sure.
We're getting weaker. We're getting weaker.
Due to my I'll share something very sort of humiliating, but due to like just my nature of being sort of ego-centered and got a big head, a little full of myself, narcissistic.
You serve others,
but even like something like yoga, and I like to think of myself at least spiritually interested, maybe not most spiritual, but spiritually interested, like in my most serious practice of physical asanas.
Yeah,
it can't help it being. I couldn't help but being still driven by some ego, still driven by something. How can I get both legs behind the head? Mm-hmm. Can I wrap behind my back with both legs behind me? Can I do Supta Baddha Karmasana? Or, you know what I mean? Can I do like Ekapada Galavasana into handstand and back down to Ekapada and then jump back to Chaturanga? Can I do all these things? And then like, how does my body look? And what am I eating to make my body look like this? Or how fit am I? How open am I? Even though it was like, it's meant for maintenance, but at the same time, it can very easily just slip into like, it's all about how much better I am, or how cooler I am, or open I am, or how like, how little body fat I am. And it's just sort of like, in the name of health, sometimes we cross that line where it goes from, I'm doing this to maintain my body so I can serve humanity better, to I'm doing this because I'm my body. And I want my body to be hot. Appreciated by others.
Well, postulate 14 is that my body is a vehicle. I think it was 14, right? My body is a vehicle for devotional service. Right? Mm-hmm. Maybe it was 4. I forget. It was one of those two.
Postulate 4, I think. Yeah. My body's a vehicle for devotional service.
And what I think there's been a wave, of interest in yoga that began. It really kind of popularized about 20 years ago or so, right?
90s. It started in the 90s in LA.
25 years ago. Let's say 25 years ago.
I got news for you. The 90s was 30 years ago.
25 years.
It's hard to believe. I thought that was 20 years ago. It's 30 years ago.
Yeah. So So that trend came, but because it's being seen through the eyes that we already, our eyes have already been trained or focused a certain way, right? The lenses of our eyes have been focused in a certain way to see things in terms of our material enjoyment, to see things in terms of our own sexiness, to see things, in terms of in that way. So it's hard for people when we're trained that way. It's hard for us not to see yoga in that context. And I think what will save yoga, right? What will make it really valuable in the Western world.
Hey, Kostuba, what will save yoga?
It's the culture and the philosophy that comes with it. In other words, like for instance, what should yoga classes really be in the Western world, right? Should it be like scorpion pose and learning, or should it just be like you're saying, what's most essential for maintaining this body and balancing the body in such a way that I can have a peaceful mind so that I can focus it spiritually, right? Like what does it take to do that? And the focus fact is there's not a market for that right now, right? Like if you just had if you had a class that was like just perfectly designed to like help a person just like that their digestion works well, that their heart rate works well, that their muscles and skeletal system and all of that was just at a nice balance, most people would not be interested in that class.
Right. Exactly. We're not interested in balance. We want to do it to look hot.
Yeah.
That's why there's mirrors everywhere. Like at a gym, you're like, check me out. Look at me. It's like you're looking at yourself thinking you're hot or you're not hot. Either way, like I'm not hot enough. And it becomes, am I just projecting my brain? Mayor's like, yes, you are.
I don't think so. I think we're all kind of stuck there. It's the whole influence is just like Elisabeth Kubler-Ross was saying, it's this facade that's being presented to us that this is where the happiness is lying. We're conforming to it. It's hard not to conform to it.
Mm-hmm.
What will save it is the culture and the wisdom from that yoga culture. Then people, I could see, for instance, an organization like the Bhakti Center, like as its community grows, that it would provide yoga classes for that community with this specific interest, and then the classes would begin to change. They'd become like, hey, this is what you need. The teacher would ideally have a grasp of what the individual needs, and the classes would be designed to just for that maintenance. They wouldn't be an hour and a half long probably for most people. They'd be shorter, but effective. I think it could happen.
That being said, especially my strong classes that I would teach, you could use it. Oftentimes what because I like doing strong hard classes, like Lori Pag likes to teach strong classes, and some of our other teachers here, Cindy.
I'm not saying there's no place for it, but it's not.
My point is, I'm defending myself here. You don't have to defend me. If you add these elements to bhakti, sometimes people's ego, hey, I want to learn how to do a handstand. Hey, I want to learn to do a scorpion and drop into wheel and kick back to chaturanga. And sometimes you go for that ego-driven reason, but you infuse it with bhakti, and that you come for the handstands, leave for the Harry Bowl, or stay for the Harry Bowl rather.
Yeah.
And that's what happens a lot. That's how a lot of us got stuck here on this podcast.
Yeah.
Including Mara, probably.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mara, is that true?
Yeah, it is.
You wanted to do handstands? That's why you came around.
I still can't do handstands. I've been around for years.
It's pretty good. Pretty good.
Okay. So the city's getting attacked. His body's getting weaker. He's beginning to cry, Raghunath.
Yeah.
Text 16.
Text 16. King Puranjana then began to think of his daughters, sons, grandsons, daughter-in-laws, sons-in-laws, servants, and other associates, as well as his house, his household paraphernalia, and his little accumulation of wealth. Interesting, because this analogy is so good, because this is what you're actually thinking of at the time of death.
Yes.
But all these daughters-in-laws, sons-in-laws, they have some analogous meaning. Kostuba, do you want to go into that?
But I believe that commentators like Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, important great figures in the lineage, have said that actually specifically this verse and the verses that follow it, because he's being separated from them, it's an indication that it's speaking a bit, you can put a more literal, you can interpret this literally more properly in this case. In other words, this is what people go through at the time of death. They
Right.
think of their kids, they think of their spouses, they think of whatever
Their
they've
home, their
accumulated.
home.
Yeah, this is where the mind will go. You know, if it's not trained, if that's where your attachments are, it'll go this way. Text 17 is really interesting.
I'm just thinking, right? I'm just digesting this stuff. I can't move
it
as
in?
quick as you. I have to really
Okay.
ponder.
Let's spend a little time with it. What are you
pontificate.
thinking about?
I'm just thinking about how like sometimes if someone talks about your place of birth, Mara, where were you born? Ghent?
Pittsfield, Massachusetts.
Pittsfield. All right.
Mhm.
So sometimes when someone talks about your place of birth, you're like, oh, I was born there. It's like we're so related to that place of birth. Like that's part of my identity.
Okay, Rogan.
I'm from New England. You know, especially if you don't live there. If you live in Los Angeles, you're like, well, I'm from New England. I'm from New England too. It's like that is part of our external ego, you know. And especially if we've lived there for a long time. I've lived here for 20 years. I grew up here. As a matter of fact, where we live, where me and Mara live, this area, it's like people like get really proud, right, Mara? Like if you lived here for 20 years, that means nothing. You have to live here
Generations.
Generationally, and then you're from here. 20 years is nothing here. You got to be like my great great grandfather. This land was gifted to us in the Revolutionary War, that type of thing here. No one cares how long you've been here when they have little respect for you. So it's part of the ego. And it's hard. And so because it's so drilled into us and reinforced by others and culture, then what happens is we start to identify those things deeper and deeper and deeper until that becomes, we hear it so much. We hear it in our own mind, the echo chambers of our own mind so much that external false self becomes the thinking process of what I actually am. And then when we have to leave that, that's when the whole thing crumbles. That's when the whole house of cards falls down. Like you think you're a New Yorker, don't you? You're not.
Oh, I got news for you,
Mr. Costuba.
I got news for you.
I got news for you, man.
Listen here, funny boy. All right. Text 17, Raghunath, it's just going to tie right into exactly what you're saying. That's why I was saying read it. Because
I'm thinking like the Bhagavatam today. King Puranjana was overly attached to his family and conceptions of I and mine.
Boom.
Right, like the George Harrison song. I mean, or was that the album? I, Me, and Mine.
I Mean Mine. That was the song.
King Puranjana was overly attached to his family and conceptions of I and mine because he was overly attracted to his wife. Yep, don't do that. Don't be overly attracted to your wife. He was already quite poverty-stricken. He was already quite poverty-stricken. At the time of separation, he became very sorry.
Okay, so
we're not saying don't love, but we're saying you have to be detached, love and be detached because we don't possess.
Within the context of truth we were talking about yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a phrase used in this verse, Sanskrit phrase, aham mameti. Right? This comes up commonly, right? We'll find this in other places in Bhagavatam and so on. Aham mameti, I and mine, the conceptions of I and mine. This is like a phrase that's meant to kind of like encapsulate the basic principle that we move through this world with. You know, you were saying the ego, right? I and mine. Who am I and what is mine? I was born in Pittsfield, right?
Yep.
Pittsfield, Mass.
So I'm thinking, you know, that is my place, right? The people there are my people and so on, right? And we're seeing everything through this I and mine. But there's a very famous verse that uses this phrase that we find later in Bhagavatam. You know who said it, Raghunath?
King Rishabhadev.
That's right.
Boom!
Nice, Raghunath. Boom. You got it, King Rishabhadev. This verse is going to sound heavy, but I think we should go there. Raghunath. It's coming up.
I know where you're going. This is one of the heaviest verses of the Bhagavatam. Wherever you're sitting, everybody, buckle up.
Be prepared to be triggered, but let's try to understand it. Right?
The Bhagavatam is supposed to trigger us.
Okay.
Those who are suffering, we give them stability. And those who are stable, we give them what?
We try not to make them unstable. I don't know.
Those who are stable, we get them to start to question their stability.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. Materially stable.
Yeah, those who are materially unstable, we give them some, hey, don't worry, it's going to work out. It's going to stabilize. That's what we do as devotees, right? But those who are feeling stable in the material world, we start to like shatter that and make them think deeper about the material world. That's what we're doing right now. And King Rishabhadev is going to hit us with the hammer of truth right now. Go.
Now, it was okay. Here's King Rishabhadev. He says the attraction between male and female.
Sounds good so far.
Well, that's good. Actually, even that's triggering nowadays, right? Because like, well, what about the attraction between female and female? Or what about the attraction?
Yeah.
Right, it's like,
but this whole thing is triggering.
Yeah. But
I can't even walk out the door without being triggered.
But I'll say this, and I'm going to speak in general. But I believe that most commonly, or even like in the vast majority of cases,
yes,
even within homosexual relationships, there's still a male-female dynamic taking place on some level. Like
if it was you and me, which one would I be?
We're not going there. We're just not doing that. Okay. So the attraction between male and female, it becomes, even within a homosexual context is likely there. Okay. And anyway, pull yourself together. Raghunath, we're trying not to be silly here.
You got to pull yourself together at this point. I'm fine.
I'm fine. What are you talking about? Okay, here's the verse.
Let's do this.
The attraction between male and female. Now, hear this, Raghunath, okay? This is important. He says it's the basic principle of material existence.
I think that's Freud also.
I think so too, right? It is. It's the basic. It's what's motivating us. It's what's driving us.
It's what's like having us comb our hair and being brokenhearted when we lose our hair recedes. It's like, what kind of frames am I going to buy for my lenses? Who cares? You just need to see. No. I need the right frames that go with my skull, that go with my eye sockets. It's a reason why we're trying to get washboard abs. It's a reason why we have the gym membership, why we're going through thousands of yoga pants to try on. It's the reason why we're, trying to make a lot of money or try to invest. How motivated would we be able to do anything? Would we even get out of bed in the morning if it wasn't for this principle of attraction to whatever, attraction to whomever? I want the world to think I'm hot so I can enjoy sexual
pleasures,
sexual stuff, various sexual stuff.
Yeah, and the other pleasures are kind of tied to that. It's the basic principle, right? But everything's kind of based off that, Like let's take dressing, right? Like I dress a particular way, and I feel a certain pleasure from that, but because that pleasure is tied to sexual pleasure in some way, right? And so what these sages were recognizing was, if you dig down, if you pull the thread and you keep pulling it and you keep pulling it, right?
It's all going to come down.
It all comes down
that same principle. Rishabhadev said it perfectly.
Okay, so here he goes. He says the attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence. On the basis of this misconception,
it's a misconception. The formula is wrong. The sum total 1 + 1 = 9. Like the basic misconception.
That here I'll find stable, increasing happiness through this. Right. That's the source of happiness. No, it's not this. You might find some temporary pleasures there, but the material formula is that material pleasure always comes with material suffering. It goes back and forth, right?
Yeah,
So on the basis of this misconception, which ties together the hearts of the two,
ties our heart together.
One becomes attracted to body, home, property, children, relatives, and wealth.
It's like everything we want. It's everything sort of.
That's the world we're moving through.
It's like wholesome too. It's not like I'm attracted to. Huh?
It's not evil.
It's not evil.
Illusory.
It's not like I'm attracted to
sense.
prostitutes, gambling, snorting cocaine. It
Deg-
is like,
yeah,
these are good things.
not degradation.
It's not
Necessarily.
degradation.
It could take the form of degradation, but doesn't have to. Right. Okay, ready?
Is there more? Yeah.
In this way, one increases life's illusions. They increase, they begin to expand,
Mm-hmm.
and thinks in terms of aham mameti, I and mine.
I and mine.
All right. This is information coming from really thoughtful people. Right? They're like,
Yeah.
their perceptions were clear because of their lifestyle, right? They had kind of removed themselves from all of the things of this world. They said, I can live without. I can live simply. I can control my breathing. I can control physically. I can do asana, just like we're talking about, right? I can do asana. I can do pranayama to bounce when my whole body is like all the systems are flowing smoothly. My mind's going to become more lucid. When I walk away from a lot of the material entanglements in life, my mind's going to become more lucid. And in their lucid thought, they're writing down on palm leaves, right? These sages, like this kind of information. Look at life, look at it carefully. Okay. And I'll read it again. The attraction between male and female is the basic principle of material existence. On the basis of this misconception, which ties together the hearts of the two, one becomes attracted to, it's all tied into that attraction. One becomes attracted to body. My body becomes such an, important
My body
thing.
becomes, I want it to be
sexy.
Sexy-ish, yes, sexy-ish, attractive in the eyes of others.
Yes, yes.
Especially my
Admired,
partner and other people.
I want it to be admired. Yeah. Home. Same thing. I want that to be admired, right? I want there to be comforts there. I want it to be admired by others, right? Property. Children. Right? Even I want my children to be admired. I feel admired when my children.
Yeah, my child got straight A's.
Yeah, right.
My child's an Eagle Scout. Whatever it is, it's like it's an extension of my ego.
That's right. Relatives and wealth. And in this way, one increases life's illusions and thinks in terms of I and mine. We were talking about football hooligans the other day, Raghunath, right?
Yeah. What were we saying?
Well, just again, that idea, I and mine, like, right? I identify
for some
with
reason, because of my community of hooligans, I hate those other hooligans.
Yeah,
right?
or this team.
Hey, come on, hooligans, get together, hug it out.
Yeah, like the excellence of this team represents my people, where we're from,
my tribe,
who I am.
I got it.
Who I am, right? My team,
There is one way to bring this world together, Kastuba, and that's for people to adopt the Bhagavatam, the philosophy of the Bhagavatam, and see each other as a spirit soul inhabiting a material body and mind and ego. None of those things are ours. We are different. We're not going to say we are falsely all the same. We're not. There are different tribes with different flavors and tastes and idiosyncrasies and habits. But underneath all that is a pure spiritual being. And that's outside of even the human citizens. That's right. That goes right down to the animal is a spiritual being. The plants are spiritual beings.
And that's very well said, Raghunath. Thank you. Thank you for that. And all of this is, as you were saying earlier, it's not saying that you shouldn't love. It's not saying that you shouldn't love your spouse and you shouldn't love your children and your relatives and so on. And you shouldn't be responsible in terms of your body, your home, your property, and so on, your wealth. It's not saying that you have to give up all wealth. It's not saying any of these things, right? Some yoga paths are going to be geared more in that direction, right?
Well, the idea is because, and it makes sense. If you've, like, for example, I was a punk rock guy, so I spent my years traveling in vans and tour buses and staying at different people's houses or hotels or traveling like day after day after day after day after day. And part of that, after many years of doing that, I realized like I'm sort of have no home. And there's something sort of like good for you in that, like you become detached from. Like a lot of times when you get a new guitar player in the band, sometimes we'd get some young kid who loved the band and wanted to try out for the band. but they just could not hack with the touring schedule. They're like, this is too much for me. A lot of even excellent musicians just cannot tour like the way we used to tour, because people need security. They need the same thing every day. They need to wake up at the same time and at the same place. And so it develops like a severance between that regulation and you're sort of like, I have no home. And it makes you a little bit freer. And the same can be said about diet. If you've ever gone on a fast for a long period of time, where you said, like, you know what, I don't need that food. I'm not, some people will freak out. I need my breakfast. I need to eat breakfast. It's 9 a.m. And sort of like, I don't need it. I'm cool. So that detachment does give you a little bit of peace. But where was I going with this, Kostuba?
You're saying that by physically walking away, like moving yourself away from home, et cetera, that it naturally can help one breed detachment. I think that's where you're going, right?
Yeah, it does breathe. It gets rid of some of the anxieties that go with attachment. So, but in Bhakti, we're cultivating the knowledge. Even if we have stuff, we understand, like, it's not mine. I understand that I'm living right here in this house, that this isn't my house. This isn't my house. Once you get into the material realm, it's just like, let's face it. Everybody's got blood on their hands. Where did I get this house from? I bought it from this guy. Where did he get it from? He bought it from that guy. Where did he get it from? He bought it from this guy. And where did they get it from? Well, the governor of England. This was his massive tract of land that was he just fenced off, and then the governor was given by the Queen. Where did they get it from? Well, they just took it. They just took it from whoever was here first. And then we think like, oh yeah, because these, the original people living on this land, they were just like living here, just riding unicorns around, embracing each other. Wrong. They were everybody's got blood in their hands in this game of taking property. It's almost like the safest thing you could do is just sort of like be a nomad and forage or something like that. But once you say this is mine, there's some blood there, that someone's paid for this to be yours somehow.
What to speak of, if you go back even further, none of it's our energy. It's all belongs to God. That's
right. And that's the actual concept that we're going for. Like, even if I have something, I'm going to use it for God. If I have something, I'm going to, you know why? It's God's.
It's not mine.
And if I take any of it for my ego, like, check out my house, guess what? Now I've taken from God in that sense.
Yeah.
Like, suppose you've given me $1 million to give to Mara, and I say, while I'm passing it over, I'm taking a $20 bill for myself and put it in my back pocket. Now I'm a thief. That $20, now I'm a thief. So our idea in Bhakti is everything that you have is for Krishna. Why? Because it's Krishna's. Not because you're trying to be a good person, just because it's Krishna's anyway. And so we're offering it back to where it came from. That means your talent. That means your thoughts. That means your artistic ability. That means your resources. That means your genius. That means your charisma. Everything will be offered back. Why? Because it's not yours anyway. That Shakti is right.
Yeah, and it doesn't make us the loser, because it's kind of like if we're a leaf on a tree, we don't want the water poured on us. We want it poured on the root, right? Sure. We don't benefit when the water gets poured on us. We benefit when the water is poured on the root. So therefore, we're pouring everything towards the root.
These are good. It's old school analogies, but they still really work well.
They still work. That's why they stick around, right?
Yeah.
So what's being said here is, it's not being, in one sense, one's looking at their spouse and their home and their property, it's children, etc., all of that, and they're saying it's not mine, right? But going to postulate 31, like two people holding hands walking towards divinity, they're saying, but I see it all in connection with the divine. I love my spouse. I'm responsible with my wealth and so on, but I see it all as belonging to God, and that's true renunciation. Like, that's the internal renunciation. When we say my body is not me and this property is not mine, right? This spouse is not mine. This child is not mine. Now we're thinking in terms of reality. And now you can love all you want. And now you can make all the money that you want and all of that, because you actually don't see that it belongs to you. Now you're engaging it, you're returning it, you're sending it towards the root. You're feeling the vibrancy, and you're feeling, true life. In the Gita, the 6th chapter, first text, Krishna says, one who is unattached to the fruits of their work and who works as they are obliged. There's the key, right? I'm still doing the work. I'm still a responsible citizen. I'm still a loving spouse and parent. I'm still, an honest person in society and so on, and a responsible person in society. So one who is unattached to the, but I'm unattached, right? Unattached to the fruits of their work, but who works as they're obligated, is, Krishna uses the word here, is a sannyasi. Right?
That's the real sannyas.
That's the real sannyasi. That's the real renunciate. And he says they're the true mystic, right? And then he, counters it, or he compares it to someone who might externally have that, but not have the internal detachment. And he says, and not he who lights no fire and performs no duty. So Bhagavatam will say a heavy verse like this, right? Okay, it's this man-woman thing. It's this sexual connection. That's the basis of everything, that the whole world is just spinning around on this, and it'll sound like, and from that you get attached to your kids and to your home and all that. Well, I got to walk away from it all. No, you just have to begin to see it in the context of truth, and then turn it all into a beautiful offering, and then you thrive. Actually, your happiness, because you thought those things were the source of happiness, they were a source of temporary pleasures followed by suffering. When you understand what the real source, that your real source of happiness is internal, it's spiritual, that's the real, now you're operating within the realm of truth. All right.
I like that, man. That's
you,
it. That's the show today.
It's a show. I'm going to be
Went by
seeing
fast.
you soon, right?
Goes by quick when you're having fun.
And
Bhagavatam,
we get a few
every
takeaways.
day. Mara, takeaways.
Yeah, we got some good takeaways today.
Give me some goodies, Mara. Let me put them in my goodie basket.
Time will tear down the facade.
What?
Time
will tear down
will
the
tear down the
facade.
facade.
Time will tear down the facade. I like that.
We're sure. Okay, we heard about a facade. Remember back in the Nugget?
Yeah.
Okay.
Their idea of success is all I detest.
Oh.
Booyah!
You like
Now we're
that?
talking.
Yeah.
Elder, attaining the supreme. Good.
We're here for self-realization.
Just one question, Rogan. When you say detest, was
Detest it. I detest.
perhaps that was a little attachment in the form of aversion there. At the same
No, I was
time.
actually detested
Mm.
by their success.
But I'm saying, like, couldn't you just like let it go? I'm just
I
wondering.
did let it go.
Okay, just checking.
Why don't you let it go?
Okay, I will. Thank you.
Why don't
There's-
you let this go?
Back to our takeaways. There's a bigger ROI on your spiritual life.
ROI.
Hi,
Return on investment.
There's danger at every step.
That's right. Padam yadvi padam natesham. Bhagavatam right there.
My body is a vehicle
Is
for
that what you
devotional
think?
service.
That was me stepping. Oh! Anvil falling. All right, go on.
Don't be
Yeah.
overly attracted to your wife.
Not overly.
Never,
just
never. No.
be
Everything
loving,
we-
be careful, but
Marry ugly.
all right.
Everything we have is for Krishna.
That's right.
Everyone's got
And
almost. Everyone's got blood on their hands when we claim I, me, and mine.
that's right.
Everybody's got blood, even you, Kastuba.
Bloody.
Material pleasure comes with material suffering.
It does.
And
And
who cares
And-
about your fashion when you're about to be a skeleton?
that's right.
Yeah. Thanks everybody joining us. Srimad Bhagavatam every day. That's how we do it. We hear the Bhagavatam every day and it recalibrates our brain. Makes me start thinking like the Bhagavatam. And that's what happens eventually. You put enough of this stuff in your brain, it starts to flow out of your mouth. It starts to recreate the way you think. Create your choices, create your habits, create your joy, your concept of happiness. And we get in line with the way that all the great sages thought. Isn't that great news? Thanks
Yeah.
for everybody for joining us. Remember to check out Divya's cooking course, Ayurvedic cooking course called, Mara, what's it called?
The masterclass or the one on Patreon?
I don't know. The masterclass. The masterclass. Is that what it's just called? The masterclass?
Yeah, masterclass. Yeah.
Okay. And give some info, Mara. Jump in here.
We have a link in our show notes that we'll put up and you'll get 40% off the masterclass.
All right.
We
Well,
also have
and-
a special code that's Wisdom of the Sages 15, and you can get 15% off your first purchase because she sells like packets of kitchery and spice blends and things.
Alrighty. Hey, remember the Thanksgiving Day weekend, BhaktiRecoveryGroup.com has their Swiss, as in Switzerland, yoga retreat, November 24th through the 27th. I'll be there dressed as a Swiss miss,
Making cocoa.
yodeling with those big long horns. Those are real. Those are real
Believe they're
yodeling
real.
horns. It's like a whole thing. And Bobby Marchand is going to be there cooking and teaching yoga.
That's right.
That is November 24th to the 27th, Bhakti Recovery people. Dig deep. And yeah, thanks everybody joining us on Zoom. If you're out there listening on your podcast, you can join us on Zoom. It's quite fun here. We're all looking at each other, checking each other out, waving to each other, writing each other secret messages, right? And we're spying on each other's apartments and seeing where we live. I'm looking at people's wall art right now. Yes, you. You're like, is he looking at me? Yes, I am looking at you. I'm just scouring the board for things in your apartment. I want to know all about you. So you can join us. Email Mara, wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Hey, tomorrow's Wednesday. Wait. Tomorrow's
on Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Yes.
And then Thursday. Are we doing a show Thursday, Mara?
We were going to, but we're going to have to talk about that.
Yeah, it might
Because
not
I think we're
happen,
going to have
'cause-
to be driving to the city.
Yeah. Might not happen. We're going to India. We're going to leave Kostuba here. And a lot of the Zoomers are coming too. This is exciting. And we're going to meet some people I haven't met yet. I am so excited.